can. She's actually out in the hallway, but Hilda Kalunga is our Community Impact Director for our Tarrant County Market, and so she'll be bouncing some things off as well. Thank you. Well, I guess it's afternoon now. Is it afternoon? Not yet? Well, good morning. Happy New Year. I'm Bree Mabry, as Ms. Sherry has introduced me. I am the Community Impact Director for the Dallas Market for American Heart Association. Why are we talking about vaping? Well, why is American Heart Association talking about vaping? Well, we have actually created a community impact team, which is why I'm involved in all of this. Our focus areas have really changed over the years, and since COVID kind of hit us really hard in this area, we decided to really focus more on our communities, and one area that we are really focusing in on is tobacco-free, not only on the city level, but really trying to see how it affects our children and our youth. There are some key statistics that you should see on the flyer that you guys may have. Just to kind of give you a few to paint the picture, 1 in 5 teens are vaping. Right now, that's 3.6 million kids. Nearly half of the youth e-cigarette users report using a device in school. And then nearly of these kids want to quit smoking. We really describe vaping as the tobacco epidemic. Of course, when I was in school, it was, wear red for stop smoking cigarettes. Now, we're not seeing cigarettes. We've seen a decrease in the usage when it comes to, youth smoking cigarettes, but the vaping has really kind of altered that and risen to the top in terms of statistics. When we look at high school students, we're seeing about 72%, 59% middle school students. Mm-hmm. Any questions on any of those statistics? Okay. One startling statistic that is not on here is, yes, we've highlighted the 59% middle school students and the 72% high school students. Here in North Texas, we have stories about elementary school students that are selling the vapes internally. And so we know that they may not be using them in elementary school because they're more attentive and they have more supervisory, in terms of the teachers and everything. But in terms of selling, that is something that is increasing that we're seeing as well around in the area. So as we mentioned, schools are the front lines of the youth vaping epidemic and are uniquely positioned to combat this epidemic. Specifically, schools can structure practices to prevent addiction through education and to support students who are already addicted. So here at the American Heart Association, again, we see you guys as experts in the education system. And so one of the things that we want to do is make sure that we're working alongside you in terms of how can we help fight this epidemic, how can we be a better resource with our students, with our school districts, with our education system. And so we are really looking to change system practices and making sure that, again, the environment to break this habit for our youth is really put into place, and we're all working together to achieve that. So when we're working with different school districts, we're really making sure that we're adding that triple benefit approach. We think that it is supporting student academics, of course, improving health, and decreasing inequities. Some of our core competencies, we want to be really supportive and not as progressive when it comes to disciplinary action, which we'll get into a little bit more. But we really believe, like with this approach, the first 2 instances should not involve suspension. When I usually say that, it scares a lot of people in different districts, but I think as we're approaching each system differently, each system can uniquely position their own board or student code of conduct either way. It's not like we want to prescribe you something as a district and say, hey, you have to do this because we as American Heart Association is saying that you have to. no, we're very open to, recommendations, other unique opportunities that you think should be filled in. But what we're really pushing for is a revision of just making sure that, again, we are addressing and making sure that these spaces in our education system within your district is more supportive for the students when it comes to tobacco and vaping. So these are the recommendations for the policy or student code of conduct. You'll see that the definition and prohibitions highlighted right here. These are already covered by the TEA. What we would be asking for each district to really identify and revise and maybe add to their student code of conduct or policy are the 3 definitions of industry, discipline, and support. When we talk about discipline, of course, this is where, again, each school district is going to be unique in terms of what it may look like for each district or their students. But again, we're open to that. I think for also the support piece, we're wanting to make sure that districts adopt strategies that ensure all students are having the resources to quit. So is that a built-in counselor that can come on site and help addiction practices, decrease the addiction practices? So we have resources to support that as well, but as we're reaching out to school districts, we want to make sure that you guys are well educated on what the TEA actually has when it comes to addressing this issue and what we will recommend as an organization, and also how we can help you get to the next steps and making sure that from this conversation it leads to a bigger conversation with the board and going from there. So that's pretty much it in terms of just the overview. I am more than willing to come back and give some more information if that is super helpful. There's also, I don't think I put it on here, but there is a website on the form that you have, and it literally gives you all of the alarming statistics that you can push out there just to kind of put a filler or scare some people. But please feel free to reach out. This is my email address, and then Ms. Sherry is also a wonderful friend, so she can connect us as well.
Absolutely. So I want to have the opportunity if anybody has questions, and I did want to ask one question myself, Bree, as far as support for the school districts. Do y'all have, and I guess you would go into more specifics at a later time, but it's resources for the students on being able to go through cessation and things like that?
That is correct. Just depending on, I guess, the support and how each district decides to define it, however that looks, that's what we will help support. So if there is something built into the language of this is the second offense for someone being caught with a vape pen, or we have watched them use it in the hallway and this is the second attempt or the third attempt, they're probably addicted. How can we get them into addiction services? And so we can help connect those dots. Of course, we wouldn't say, do something, add something, and you're out on your own. No, we really definitely want to walk alongside you guys. So that will definitely be up to the district in terms of what is defined as support. And then from there, we would help get those resources put into place.
Okay, so it's ideally to help the students that may have a nicotine addiction to give them help to be able to quit to where they aren't breaking school policy and things like that. Then.
That is correct. What we are seeing, with the disciplinary action, yes, you're being disciplined for having a vape pen, but we haven't talked to you about what's going on at home. Why are you addicted? How long have you been addicted, and how can we help support you? Because obviously it is an issue, and it's messing with the whole education process that you should be going through as a student.
Okay, and so y'all have the capability of helping to support that by having the counselor or somebody to come in and assist with things like that? That is
correct. For Hilda, for instance, hers is a little different in the Tarrant County, Johnson area because she has a full-blown initiative that's going out into the community. Ours is a little bit different for Ellis and Dallas. We're just now really stepping into this space. So we're actually growing, and I personally would love to see like the first school come out of, sorry Hilda, not trying to compete, but the first school to come out of, you know, either Ellis or somewhere in North Texas that's not in that dividing line of the Fort Worth, Tarrant County area. And so that's where we're trying to really boost them in the motivation and the momentum of how can we be a better support. And so we're absolutely open to listening to any recommendations. Again, what we say, we're not pushing it, but we're encouraging you just to kind of take a look and then see how we can be a better partner to align and make sure that we are giving those resources.
Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask Bree? All right, thank you, Bree. Oh.
For sure, and let me go back to actually this page. On the definition, as it is defined by the TEA in the Policy and Student Code of Conduct, it doesn't address anything about e-cigarettes. And so I think that's kind of where the missed opportunity has been over the years is, yes, the TEA is forcing and it's mandatory to define tobacco products, define and all include tobacco, but e-cigarettes is not included in that language. And so again, as this is a growing epidemic, we know that our students are smoking, they're selling vape pens in class and doing X, Y, and Z. That needs to be an added word. And so we want to make sure that we're helping you get to that.
One more quick question. As far as, I mean, legality, it's illegal for kids under the age of 21 to be in possession of tobacco products. And I know with, you know, y'all wanting to relook at like the disciplinary side of it. I mean, what are y'all's thoughts? Because it is illegal for these kids to have these products.
So in terms of that, I think with our language and just the support, we're just hoping that the disciplinary action sticks more with the district. What we are seeing in terms of like it being illegal, we haven't really figured out like how they're getting a hold of it. Mm-hmm. But we're seeing that if one person is able to get a hold of it, it's just trickling and being passed around each and every day, like in our hallways, everywhere in the school.
Okay. All right. Anybody? All right. Thank you, Bree. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so as far as Reach Council updates, I did want to kind of mention that we do have the pop-up prom event that's going to be coming up on February the 27th and 28th. It'll be held at the Waxahachie Civic Center. This is open to all juniors and seniors that are planning to go to prom. This gives them the opportunity to come in and get free prom attire. We do have dresses, and we do have some suits for gentlemen. We're still looking for donations of suits to kind of build up our supply there. But whatchamacallit, we just picked up 300 more new dresses from them just this past week. So we've gotten close to 500 new dresses since June from them that have been donated. So I will be getting posters and stuff put together within the next week or so to bring those out to the high school campuses to help promote the event and the opportunity for the students of WISD to be able to get free prom attire. Any questions? We're going to hold it at the Waxahachie Civic Center. It is on a Monday and Tuesday evening. Our time is from 3:30 to 7:30, so it gives them an opportunity to come in. We do have a few activities that the kids get to go through. They choose 3 things, an education piece that they want to go to, whether it's playing games. We have a spinning wheel with questions. We have where they could play Connect 4 with our marijuana goggles. We have our Fatal Vision goggles for alcohol activities. So just to kind of bring awareness, give them that little education piece. which meets our requirements with our grants. And then we also have a parent aspect that we're going to try to do this time as well. That way the parents are just waiting for the kids. They have an opportunity to go through our hidden in plain sight bedroom setup. And so they'll get to walk through that and check it out. And then they get to go shopping with their kids. And so our goal is to be able to provide something for every kid that comes in. I will say we are a little bit limited on our plus sizes in dresses, but I was really happy to see that we did get quite a few more of those donated this year. We are still accepting gently used, clean dresses and suits, so if anybody would like to donate, it is a very worthwhile event. I know that there's several in here that have donated dresses to me in this past year, and I really appreciate that. And but if there's if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on it. I did want to put the bug in. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Where do we take the dresses that you have?
You can call me. I can come pick them up. Sometimes even if you take them to the campus and leave them in the front office, I can swing by there and pick them up. Just let me know where I need to go. Thank you. Yes.
We also get a graphic post.
Yes, we're working on social. Yes, we're going to have a social media graphic that I'll send out, and yeah, any way that y'all can help us get the information out to students and parents. But yeah, sometimes kids are a little hesitant to come in, but I know that the students that have come in the past have been really surprised. Some of these dresses that are donated have price tags, $200 to $700, range in here. And so, and we actually have a tailor that's going to be on site with us that can make, because sometimes trying on dresses, you might get a snag or there could be a snap or something. So we're going to have somebody on site. If some major tailoring's there, they'll be able to help answer that question as well. Thank you. And mark your calendar. April the 22nd is going to be the next prescription drug take-back event. So we'll be in the process of getting information out on that as well. The school district has always been really a great partner on that with us on utilizing the Coleman parking lot. So I will be reaching out to see if we're able to do that again as well. It's going to be the 22nd. Usually it's the last Saturday in April, but this year they moved it up. It coincides with Earth Day, so they're looking to, the DEA is going to do a big promotion around that. I believe that's all that I've got as far as reach updates. Do we want to do things a little out of order? Did Dr. Hollingworth is, hi, nice to meet you. So we've got some community involvement updates, and we're going to have Dr. Hollingsworth speak with us today.
Thank you so much. Anytime I can have a captive audience, I want to talk to you about our growth and our plans on how it is that we're going to handle that growth. I'm making the rounds right now. I meet with every campus every semester doing what I call campus rounds. We have a different theme because we have elementary teachers and they help guide us in that direction. So we have this year, or this semester, it's limitless possibilities, and we feed them pasta, and we typically what we do is a two-way street and provide feedback opportunities. This time, it's real heavy on our plans for the upcoming bond. And so I'm going to give you the nutshell version, okay? And I am always willing to come and visit with you personally. I'm willing to visit with any group that you'd like me to, so that I can share our message of growth and where we are. In a nutshell, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know this, if you ever drive around our community at all, you can see we're growing. And we're growing a lot. And so currently we have 10,900 students in Waxahachie ISD. Just over 10,900 kids. We ended the school year last May with 10,140. So just kind of, we hit 10,000 for the first time in September of 21. I had been here for a month. And in September of 21, we hit our 10,000 student for the first time. Little girl who was here from Brazil. And she was excited. She thought she was going hard. The limits that said 10,000, and she was fired up about it. We were really, really close to hitting our 11,000. So that just gives you a gauge on that the growth is a real thing, and it's going to continue for a really long time. Our community came together. We had a long-range planning committee, a group of about 70 folks who came together to help us create a 17,000 student plan, a 10-year plan, if you will. Okay? We prefer to call it a 17,000 student plan because we know that demographics are imperfect. We could hit 17,000 students in 8 years. We could hit 17,000 students in 12 years. But we know in about 10 years, all of our data points to the fact that we're going to have in excess of 17,000 students. To give you another kind of growth point, we anticipate that by 4041, which sounds forever away, okay, but I will tell you that baby Foster, if you've done the math, what year do you think that baby will graduate? 40? 41? Yeah. So those babies yeah. But those babies are here. And that sounds like, oh my gosh, 41, why do we even think about that? Well, we have to think about it because that's just the reality. Our demographic data shows us that by 41, we will have over 26,000 students in Waxahachie. Over 26,000 students, okay? That puts us on par with school districts like Grand Prairie. We'll be bigger than Hershey-Bedford. We'll be bigger than Burtville. Does that give you kind of an idea? So growth is just a reality, okay? Whether we prepare for it or not. So we have to prepare for it. The plan that we have, and I will share it in more detail, but I'm not going to right now, includes 3 elementary campuses. It includes additions to our junior highs so that they last longer. The plan itself will eventually include, not in this next one, but eventually include a 4th junior high school. Okay? But the biggest, most controversial one that I need y'all to know about, and everybody knows, the most controversial, it's not hard to open a new elementary. In Waxahachie, if you want to open a new elementary, you build it. We find some shades of green to put in the building. We put some dream catchers and teepees on the front doors. Open it up with some derivative of Indian as the mascot, and everybody's happy. True? Nobody has any issues with that. Everybody's super happy. It's super easy to do. A second comprehensive high school, one that competes in UIL activities, athletics, and band, etc., is a much different, harder pill for us to swallow. Okay? Now I'm going to show you 2 slides that have really made a big impact as I've shown them to folks. A lot of people said, it's so controversial, let's just beat Allen. Allen has 1 mega high school. They just pile them in there and call them Eagles. Okay? They've done that. They're right at 6,000 plus kids in their high school campus. Okay? Duncanville's kind of like that. Just keep on having. You don't have to change, right? Some have said South Lake Carroll. There's another good model. They're all the dragons. Let's do that. Let me show you this right here. There's Allen. Allen is that golden one. See Allen? That's their footprint. These are to scale. They're drawn to scale. Allen is 29 square miles. They're built out. They don't have room. They don't have land on which to build new subdivisions. They've built them all. If you've been to Allen, you know this. Rooftops after rooftops after rooftops, right? They don't look like us. Okay? South Lake Carroll. South Lake Carroll's a pretty place. It's nice. They have lots of really expensive homes, but they don't have a whole lot of room to grow either. They're 20 square miles. I worked there for 7 years. You can drive from one end of the district to the other in about 10 minutes. Okay? Their friends is Waxahachie ISD. And there's Prosper. Prosper is growing big time. Prosper has 58 square miles. They have 2 comprehensive high schools. They're building their 3rd. They're fixing to open their 3rd comprehensive high school. There's our footprint. Okay? One of the things, those of you, how many of you are from Waxahachie? Okay? On this map, where is Dunaway? Ish. Go ahead.
Hi. That pile in the middle.
Yeah, we think of Dunaway as being way down south. Dunaway is about where that white Waxahachie ISD is. Dunaway is way down in the middle of our district. Truly. Okay? Way down in the middle. Let me show you another one. If you want to peer into the future of Waxahachie ISD, we have other districts we can look at who have a big footprint like ours. And these are other districts that are also 20 or 30 miles from the city center. You see, Waxahachie has not moved. We are still 30 miles from downtown Dallas. Hadn't moved. Okay? There are other districts that look kind of like us on the north side of the Metroplex that allow us to peer into the future. You see, Louisville ISD once looked like Waxahachie. They have one high school and a bunch of land. Really, if you went back to the 60s, you would say, yeah, Louisville kind of looks like Waxahachie. Because they did. There's Louisville. Louisville ISD has 124.5 square miles. They have a big footprint like we do. They also are 30 miles from downtown Dallas. They're 30 miles to the northwest. The Metroplex grew north and now it's growing south. How many high schools does Louisville ISD have? 5.
Wow.
Louisville High School, the Colony High School, Hebron High School, Marcus High School, Flower Mound High School. Those are all in Louisville ISD. Big high schools. Okay? There's another one that's similar to us. You ever heard of Mansfield? They're not too far from us. You ever go there? Some of you live there. EJ lives there. Lives in Mansfield. So Mansfield is a great example of what growth could look like for Waxahachie ISD. Mansfield's very diverse, like we are. And Mansfield is still a really, really nice place to live because they have invested in their schools. They have 5 comprehensive high schools. They have an early college high school like Global. And they have a CTE high school, Ben Barber Academy. They have 7 high schools in Mansfield ISD. They are half our footprint. They have 94 square miles. There's Northwest. You're probably less familiar with Northwest. It's on the north side of Fort Worth. It's Alliance Airport, Texas Motor Speedway area. They are growing like we are on the south end near Fort Worth. They're very suburban, just like our north end has become suburban. If you go south of Waxahachie, it gets rural looking. If you go northwest in Northwest ISD, you're out near Decatur, it looks pretty rural still. Northwest has 3 comprehensive high schools. They have an early college high school like Global. They're planning their 4th comprehensive high school. I didn't make it up, and I'm sorry, I see sad faces when I say these things to people. But I want y'all to know, this is the future for large footprint districts, okay, who are 30 miles from a major metropolitan area, okay? It's the reality. Kicking the can and saying we're going to continue to have one comprehensive high school in Waxahachie ISD is not responsible. Not given the data that we see. It would be irresponsible, and it's not leadership. And so here we are, and that's how we're at. I wanted to share that with you. You're going to hear a lot more about that in the coming days. I want to offer up the opportunity to come talk to you or your groups that you'd like me to come talk to. I'd be happy to do that. Are there any questions that you have about anything that I shared with you? Any questions? Go ahead, Sam.
I have an invitation.
Come on.
If nobody has a question, I would like everybody to attend the town hall next week.
Yes.
So we have a town hall Thursday night at 6 p.m., January 28th.
who say, let's have bigger high schools. Let's do 8,000 student high schools. Most people agree that 3,000 is a big school. It is. We get a skewed sense of that in North Texas. But Duncanville and Allen, both of those districts, pull it up. It's called Texas School Locator. You can pull up on the TEA website the size of districts. And Duncanville has a much smaller footprint. There's about a third of the size of ours. And you see Allen up there. Okay? But those are mega high schools compared to what we have. Okay?
Dr. Hollingsworth, are we at capacity at our high school right now?
We're really close. That building, you know, I'm an old high school principal, and building capacity is a little bit gray. It's not an exact number because it depends on how you're using your space, how you're using your classroom. For example, some special ed programs, because of the nature of the students you're serving, you may have 3 kids in one regular classroom space because of the needs of those particular students. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But roughly, the capacity of that building is between 3,200 and 3,600 kids. Right now, we have right at 3,000. A human being I love very, very much. I send there every day. And he's happy as a clam. He loves him as Waxahachie High School. Okay? But we have 3,000 kids, and it's getting tighter, and we need a plan to be able to address that. Great question. Any others?
Dr. Hollingsworth, I just want to say that I grew up in Burkeville, and thank you for saying Burkeville and not Burkeville.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that all you
Yes, ma'am.
At that time, we had 2 high schools, and that was so much fun, that rivalry. That was just like our home rivalry. So, it can be a good thing.
It can be.
It can be a really good thing.
It can be very positive. We've got a lot of time to plan for that, okay? The earliest that we believe we could open the doors to a second comprehensive high school is the fall of 27. Okay, that's about as early as we could open a brand new comprehensive high school that is not identical to WHS, but commensurate with WHS. We could do that by about the fall of 27. And typically, when you open a new secondary campus like that, you grow into it. So you might open with freshmen only or with freshmen and sophomores. Then you add a class. And then you add a class. And so about the earliest you had graduating classes would be around 29 or 30, most likely. Okay? And then those high schools would probably not open at the same classification. We might have a 6A and a 5A. And so we can kick the can a while on the day when they have to play each other. Okay? But they're about mid-30s, about the mid-30s, that can will have been kicked as far as you can. And about the mid-30s, you have 2 big old 6A high schools, and they're going to line up at Lumpkins, and they're going to play each other. Okay? That's hard, but we have a long time to prepare for that. What's the mascot going to be? How can we do that? How you handle homecoming? They're going to want to parade. Oh my gosh. those are big issues. And I mean, it's a big deal. And we have to talk about those things because it's a really important thing. But we have to be thoughtful about that. Thank you. Okay, I've already taken enough of your time. Thank y'all very much. I really appreciate it. You know where I work. Email me, okay? And I will answer any questions you have. Okay?
Thank you, Dr. Hollingsworth. So next on our agenda on updates is WISD security update. And since Josh isn't here, Lee is going to. With Sandy? We can definitely do your. Sandy, if you would like to. Yes. Yes.
I will be very, very quick. I just thought it would be appropriate for this, going into the second semester, to just kind of give you guys an update on all of the programming that we do out of my department. I thought I could read without those, but, if you'll remember at the very beginning of the year, we were working and tweaking on our security system, our background screening system. As you are all familiar with the Raptor, when you go to a campus and they swipe your card and it becomes a sticker on your chest. We've updated since then. Raptor has been a fantastic program that the campuses use to, it identifies sexual predator type crimes. We have a system that we have also been using for years and years, but we just haven't used it at the campus level. It's called Relatrix, and Relatrix goes beyond just the sexual predator type crimes, and it gets everything. So it gets theft. We had one that was like too dark of tint on somebody's car that he didn't pay the ticket or whatever. It's very, very, very robust and thorough in the background screening that it does. Because as you know, we don't have to just worry about sexual predators. We have to worry about people that shoot things and steal things and do other things in our society now. So each of the campuses have been trained, and we're using that Relatrix system, and that system is just where the parent or volunteer that wants to come onto the campus, they have to put all their information in the system. It runs the background screening and clears them. It turns them green in the system. Once they do that, they never have to do it again. It takes 5 minutes to put your demographics in there, and you are in there forever and ever. What will happen is a year from the date you register, you'll get an email that says, last year at this time, you registered to attend one of our campus events. Would you like to be registered, maintain that registration? You click yes, it rescreens your background, and you're good to go for the next year. So it's a much more efficient process than having to fill out that paper and turn in a copy of your ID and all that stuff that we used to have to do. It takes all those steps out. So probably the majority of you in the room are already in the system. We have 7,205 active and cleared volunteers as of the first day of school. So when you talk about only having 10,000 students and we've got 7,000 people coming to visit those students and doing work on our campus, that is amazing. And that's a lot of active volunteers and parents. So in addition to that, the schools can opt to use them to put opportunities to volunteer in the system, so they can create little events and say, we need a volunteer for this event. A lot of the campuses are using that, especially the elementary level. Right now there's 134 different opportunities to volunteer at whatever, whether it's a PTO or a booster or Grand Friends volunteers or book fairs. We have fall festivals, all kinds of stuff in there where people can log in and see what's available to volunteer at. So we're enjoying that system, and it's getting less and less cumbersome as we all use it for a little bit longer. So any feedback on that system that you have, be sure to let us know. That way we can, at the campus level, make sure it's always smooth, especially with Deer Day coming up. It'll be nice to have a smooth system. We also did the Back to School Bash. You're probably familiar with that. We do that every year, and we want any kind of business or organization to plug into that if you can. If you want to come out and have a little booth at Back to School Bash, we only have about 15 or 20 spots. It's a small area, but we always like to have our good partners involved in that and giving away stuff to the kiddos. Right now I'm scheduling Lighthouse for Learning classes, so if you have a skill set that you would like to teach to adult community members this spring, I'd love to plug you into that. We also have Adopt a Class ongoing. We have 40-something businesses who have adopted third grade classrooms, and we'll start recruiting for those at the end of this semester to plug in for next year. Go Van Go is a way to volunteer with art specifically. Deer Day, like I said, that's coming up on March 3rd. Friday, March 3rd is Deer Day. The link is already out, and most of the signups have already been taken. So be sure to visit our Facebook page. There's an event set up that says Deer Day, and the link is there where you can sign up to read. We really want to get more Spanish-speaking readers, so if you know of anybody that can read in Spanish, we have Spanish books, Spanish and English books going out to Dunaway and Wedgeworth, and we would love more Spanish-speaking readers. I think we only have 7 right now. So Mr. Day at Wedgeworth said we'd love a Spanish-speaking reader at every classroom if we could. So in the book you're reading, it's printed in English and Spanish, both in the same book. So if you ever slip up on your Spanish speaking, you can look up in the English paragraph and see what you're trying to say. We have another event that is going to be new this semester that Dr. Hollingsworth has asked us to add to the schedule. So Mr. Zant, the principal over at Findlay, and I are going to build a team to do WISD's Great Give Back. And if you're familiar with Texas A&M, they do an event called The Big Event, where every A&M student goes out and does a project in the community. That's what we're going to be doing. So WISD is going to give back to the community in any and every way we possibly can. It's going to be every Saturday in March. It's like right after spring break in the middle of April. So that I'm going to be reaching out soon to local businesses, maybe volunteers. I'm just going to email everybody I can email to come up with as many projects as I can. And this will be 100% run from students and staff of WISD. So if you know of a project that you want done, or a senior center that would love some little cards from our kindergarten kids, or maybe it's a wall painted at a State Farm office, whatever, let us know about those types of projects so we can start getting that project list ready to go and the students can start signing up for those. Okay. And then the last but not least, we have a PIE luncheon. PIE stands for Partners in Education, which means community members that partner with the district to do different things throughout the year. The PIE luncheon this year is going to be a little earlier than it usually is. It's on April 20th. And another big change is it is not going to be at SAGU. It is going to be at Waxahachie Civic Center, and I know we're going to have so many people show up at SAGU because it's been at SAGU for like 15 years. But so as much as I can say that, I need to say that April 20th, the PIE luncheon will be at the Civic Center, and invitations will go out for that in a couple months. Last but not least, I have a board of directors that oversees all of these programs and organization, these events that I do for the district. There are 15 positions on that board, and I think 8 of them are rolling off this year. So I invite any of you that wants to be part of the community outreach board of directors to help with these events, just shoot me an email. That's it. Yes.
On the screenings that we're doing on an elementary campus.
Oh, okay.
So are they, is it live? I know what you fill out the form and you said it's good for the whole year, but
Yes.
so the parent comes back for, say, I don't know, whatever event, does it run back through to see if anything new has come up?
Only once a year. Only once a year.
Technically have stuff happen.
If they murdered somebody, were able to get the trial and be found guilty all within that year, then yes, it would wait till the next year, but that takes so much time to happen anyway. It's unlikely, but.
It's really just from the time they filled out the form.
Correct. Once they log in and register, it won't be rescreened until the following year when they give it permission to. So see, we can't run a background screening without somebody's permission. So that's why they get that email asking for permission to rerun it for the next year. And they're good for a year.
Is that the PIE form that we fill out, or you fill
Well,
out
there's
the
no
past?
form. Yes, it used to be a form. And
Okay.
you turned in your form and your driver's license copy.
Okay.
No
So
more
now it's
paper.
just visiting a campus, and it's automatically done for you.
Yes. Yeah. Any more questions? Y'all good? All right. So town hall, don't forget town hall next week.
All right, thank you, Sandy. Okay, well, have Lee come and join us now.
Thank you, Sherry. Josh Oliver wanted to be with us today, but as it relates to the mission of the SHAC, wanted to give you a security and law enforcement update related to the detection of drugs and tobacco in our schools, and very much thankful for our presentation from the American Heart Association. We do address within our code of conduct electronic vaporizing devices. So all of them are against the code of conduct. All of them will be subject to discipline. And I know, and Josh Oliver is very aware, that there's social media discussion about drugs at WHS, at Global, you name it. We take efforts to combat that through occasional uses of metal detectors, drug dogs, and the drug dogs also have the ability to smell gunpowder as well on the broader safety spectrum. But specifically, though, to address drugs and nicotine possession, we do utilize those tools. We are not finding, in general, drugs in rampant use, possession at the school. Nicotine devices, yes, we do find those at the school. In fact, when we utilize the metal detectors at the entrances, generally speaking at WHS, and I know our lead security officer, Belvis Nolan, is also a part of this committee. He can attest that generally speaking at WHS with 3,200 students, we aren't running every student through the metal detector. They will do a randomized check. It may be every 8th kid that day. It may be every 7th kid. It may be every 9th kid. It may be every 5th kid. They change the number they utilize. Nonetheless, on those days, we will see in the school grounds, in the grassy areas, some vapes left behind like Easter eggs. You would just go collect some vapes left behind outside the school. So the use of the metal detector, which from a school safety standpoint, you're really wanting to find potential weapons. We're not finding weapons, which is a great thing. But those occasional vapes, yes, if the student has those on them at the time they're searched, or if they're in the backpack when the drug dogs come through, they're going to be subject to discipline. If it's drugs, they're going to be subject to discipline plus law enforcement intervention, criminal punishment. We also, with our extracurricular students, we can't do suspicionless searches in general of students as a disciplinary tool, but we can, for extracurricular activities, use it as a school safety measure to determine whether the participant is fit to participate in extracurricular activities, and also then, as Melissa Bousquet said, to then allow us the launch point to initiate counseling services. We do about 100 suspicionless searches, meaning random drug tests, a month. Out of those 100, on average, I would say 1 or 2 we will find either positive for THC or refuse to take the test and thus deemed positive for a substance. About 1 or 2 out of 100 each month. We also, about 1 or 2 out of 100 each month, find amphetamines that are then explained by prescriptions for ADD or ADHD medication. And those then are deemed negative for a prohibited substance, because we then have the proof of a legitimate use or no legitimate reason for that to be in their bloodstream. I would say, any questions for Josh? He's not here. Any questions for me?
So I don't know if this, well, it does, it still correlates with security. Of course, we all have social media, we all know what goes around there. So one big question came up that several parents I know asked me is, why haven't we did metal detecting at the high school every single day? And why are we not moving towards that direction? And the biggest thing was when the district puts out that it has to be a credible source. Define credible source. When we put that out there, I mean, because yesterday was like mass. I have a high school student who is mass hysteria. I mean, I get it. Like, social media is everything out there, but at the same time, I know this doesn't take threats lightly. But again, what does credible source include? Because that needs to be put out there to the public. Because what maybe the district may be thinking of credible source is not what parents are thinking. What credible source are.
So a credible threat is one when you're analyzing the whole. And so anytime we have a threat, we are going to involve Waxahachie Police Department. So we're going to have experts to help us from a law enforcement side, and we're going to be utilizing our administration and our security team. And generally speaking, we're looking at a flow chart provided by the Department of Homeland Security and Department of Justice to help us analyze whether the person making the threat has the ability, the means to carry out the threat. And that's the best definition I can give you is credible versus not credible is going to be whether we have received a directly delivered threat by someone who appears to have planned an actual event and have the means to carry the event out. And a lot of times these threats, when they initiate, allow for some discussion between us and the person making the threat. Every single time there are efforts to intervene outside of the school. So if this thing happens, if a threat's made over the weekend, if it's made in the evening, Waxahachie Police Department, it's crisis negotiators. I mean, think along the lines of even like hostage negotiators. Their team to combat terroristic threats is going to work to try to intervene and speak to and learn about the person making the threat. And of the ones we've dealt with very recently and had the principal of Howard Junior High and had the principal of Waxahachie High School communicate directly then with parents on those circumstances here in the last couple of weeks, we have not had a credible threat, one that the person making the threat had the ability, the time, the plan to actually carry something out. It was very hot language that is subject to discipline, language that is subject to criminal prosecution. And with that, we absolutely take the threat seriously. But as far as a legitimate threat to the operation of school, something that should lead to us altering our school day, none of the threats that we have intervened and dealt with have been that. They have not been made by someone that had the capacity to actually carry out the hot language that was used. And Chief Nolan, do you have anything to add to that?
No, really, and basically all he's saying is that they don't have a tool to ability to hold those things. They're saying they don't use to take practical effects on the school. So with that being said, we've done everything we could possible to stop that. And we also knew the action that we get drugged off there, and also all the label games we have to do searches, and we pretty much put a lot of that stuff in that. So I know it's great for Wi-Fi, but again, we get it off as soon as we get that information.
So at this point, we've not had the language or the notion of threats rise to a level that we believe it's necessary to utilize a metal detector every day. We have 2 SROs, school resource officers, police officers, and 6 security officers at WHS. At each of our other secondary schools, we have our 3 junior highs, we have an SRO and now also have a security officer to go with that. At each of our elementary schools, we have a security officer. We have additional security officers to help us in the event we have absences at a particular campus. So we've got presence in addition to our campus administrators, in addition to our teachers, our nurses, our counselors, our librarians, all who receive training to help us intervene with disciplinary situations and to help us address potential behavior threats and concerns. And we have a Safe and Supportive Schools team, which Ginger Robinson and Jacob Perry lead throughout the district, but then help work and train our assistant principals, counselors, and other team members on campuses to do behavior threat assessments when necessary, in addition to discipline. So at this point, while it's always analyzed and we have the capacity to implement metal detectors on a given day, we don't believe it's necessary for us to do that every single school day at this time. But we always have the ability to do more if we believe that the situation calls for it. Ms. King?
Lee, isn't it true that these anonymous threats aren't anonymous really because we have a pretty swift way to locate the active or say something? Or not really
So our current reporting system is completely anonymous. And we want there to be an anonymous reporting system. We want students to be able, or staff members be able, if there's a bullying concern, if there's any other threat or concern that leads a person to have a safety concern, to be able to communicate anonymously. But what we don't want is someone to be able to not make a tip, but make a threat via the system and then be anonymous. Well, if you go into our Waxahachie ISD website to go to our page, we do have the ability, if what's conveyed as a threat, not a tip, but conveyed as a threat, we do have the ability with Unified Connections, that's Joe O'Daniel and our team of district technology folks. So district technology plus Unified Connections, working with law enforcement, working then with telecommunication providers like Charter Communications, Google, you name it, who in the event a school is threatened will communicate with us, will help us, essentially as the owner of our own website, Waxahachie ISD or WISD.org. to help us identify IP addresses that log into the system. And without getting much more specific than that, if we receive a threat, we are going to do whatever we can within our capacity to find the person making it and then hold them accountable for school discipline and criminal punishment. And Waxahachie Police Department sees these concerns in the exact same manner that we see these concerns.
I had a second one that I noticed a lot of people were concerned that they didn't see police presence, but isn't it true that oftentimes WPD sends plainclothes officers that they couldn't see?
I don't know if Waxahachie Police Department, so without saying yes to that, I don't know if I would say that that's true. I believe generally if Waxahachie Police Department's there, they're wearing their uniform. We do have, at every single campus, board-appointed school marshals, and there's a provision of the education code that still exists that does not allow us to publish the names or identities of those who are school marshals. That's still in Chapter 37 of the Education Code, so we abide by that. So we don't identify who those folks are. Some of those folks don't want to be identified. Some of those folks would be very willing to tell you, absolutely, I have a concealed gun and I will use it in the event of an actual threat where someone needed to, where the threat needed to be neutralized. But we don't identify who our school marshals are by name, by identity. But every single campus has school marshals. Our secondary campuses have multiple. So we've got the ability at all times to address and end a school threat. Those folks aren't in police uniform. Waxahachie Police Department folks would be, generally speaking, in police uniform.
So to piggyback off of what she said, earlier you were talking about the resources that you have at the high school. And of course, we're hearing it, and I think it's more important that the public hears it when you say that you have your librarians, you have the SROs, you have those resource officers, because I don't think they know how many people are there to help. And I truly believe that should be put out to the public, besides, your marshal people. Because like she said, the biggest thing is there's no police presence. At the same time, you do have all those other people there on campus. And I think that maybe that might help.
Very fair.
Coming from a parent perspective.
Very
that
fair.
The public actually, knows that as well.
Thank you. No, very, very fair. And a significant part of our training each year as we bring folks on, our training to onboard substitutes involves school safety. It involves our drills. And we have drills planned at the beginning of the school year. Each one of our campuses schedules all of their drills out for the entire year. And then through our duress system, we've got the ability to monitor those drills and then also have direct communication. So our duress application lets every person on the campus, that's the instructional aide, teacher, librarian, counselor, nurse, be able to communicate if a threat is occurring, and our substitutes too, be able to then have real-time information, communicate with police department, and police department be able to communicate with us. But thank you very much.
And the very last thing, parent discussion. Had a lot of people talking to me yesterday. Before when there was like a threat, Jenny put out really fast, we found the source, whether it was credible or not, we found the person and we took action. I think it happened so late yesterday because literally my daughter was like, I don't feel comfortable at school and my husband went and picked her up from school.
Oh, okay.
So like not hearing that you caught the person, how can that get out faster to parents? Like it did.
We had administrative phone calls come in.
Yeah, and
So she can't even do what we want her to do because there's so many calls come in. And I get it, because I'm a parent too, but
yeah.
it's a hard process.
We will do the best we can as soon as we get information and make sure that we help principals. Generally, we want as much information to come from the principals to parents because we believe that the principal has the utmost credibility with parents and in control of the campus. We try to help the principal be the person communicating as fast as possible. But genuinely, yesterday, at no point were we confronted with what we believed was a credible threat. The effort was then to just locate the IP address of the person responsible for making the threat and then hold them accountable, which we were able to do yesterday, and don't believe at any time that the school staff or students were ever in any peril. Any other questions related to school safety update for the School Health Advisory Committee?
I have a kid at the high school and at Howard, so I was wondering why they didn't tell us ahead of time when there was going to be metal detectors, because the kids would just not bring stuff that day. I feel like it would be more effective if we did know ahead of time.
It's a balance, and we've heard from more parents, because I truly appreciate your thought there and your concern. We've heard from more parents on the other side when we've had the metal detectors because we believed there would be need to have them, but didn't communicate ahead of time that we had at least heard this threat, that while we didn't believe it was credible, we were, out of an abundance of caution, going to have the metal detectors, because we get those concerns from then the students that see them and hadn't been told beforehand, and then there's panic and concern. We want parents to be able to have the information on the front end and have a communication with their child before their child sees something that's alarming and communicates out of panic at 7:30. Mom drops off student's mom, their child then sees a use of metal detector they weren't expecting, and then communicates with parent. If we know we're going to do it, we'd rather the parent be able to communicate with the child that evening and make a decision about coming to school. Right. Well, and our number one desire is deterrent. One, I don't want them to have a vape, but two, leave it at home. Don't bring it to school. So I don't want vapes at school. So I would say, generally speaking, good, that the bad things weren't at school. Ms. Rust, back there?
Well, I know maybe the threat before this last one, I know I got an email from parents saying, we're going to be conducting this, that I was able to pass on to my daughter. I don't know what school, but I know I've received at least an email letting us know ahead of time, this is going on, need like your metal cuffs, things like that
Right.
at home to help speed along the process.
And we wanted to be purposeful there so that families knew we were going to do it. And then we try to, main thing, we want there to be safe school and full school so that they're not spending too much time in line and not missing any instruction time. Any other questions related to school health, school security? All right. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Lee. Okay, next we have Ginger Robinson that's going to come and share our counseling updates for us.
I just wanted to, I think last meeting I gave a little bit, I said I would talk about our Mind Above Matter and where we are at on the process of adding them. So Mind Above Matter, if you remember, they presented back in September. They offer partial outpatient and outpatient programming in school districts. So we've been in talks with them about how to implement their program in Waxahachie ISD. So since our meeting, Whitney Dixon, who was their community outreach director, has moved on to a different position. And so Angela Hodge has taken over that position. So they kind of had a little bit of turnover there. So that's kind of what has pushed us, our timeline back just a little bit. So with all that said, our plan is to still move forward with Mind Above Matter in August. We have found a possible location at one of our WISD campuses. They are preparing our MOU. I have a meeting with their staff next Friday to iron out a timeline, so I'm hoping that we can give that to you guys when we meet again in April, I think, April. And then the last part is they will interview and they will hire a therapist who will be here. So they'll have all summer to work on hiring the therapist so that we can start in August. So we are still on track for starting that program to be here in August. The other thing for our counseling team, spring is all about registration. So we kind of have all that going on. With that being said, we have an open house on Tuesday, January 24th, next Tuesday, for our 8th graders who are going to be 9th graders at Waxahachie High School. So it's an open house, basically, for them to come see the high school before they start the registration process the next week. So Tuesday night, if you know any 8th graders moving into going to be freshmen, it's a really awesome opportunity. They get to tour the school. We'll have a presentation by Principal Harris, just talking about they get to see all the organizations come out. It's a really awesome opportunity for our 8th graders to see what's coming when they start high school. And then the end of March, because we won't meet again until April. The end of March is our trafficking program. February, we are meeting. Okay, so we are meeting in February. Okay, sorry. I bumped way ahead. But in March, I'll go ahead and say it. So you all met Katie, the new community resource person. Leslie Dean introduced her. She's our teacher who will be coming in and teaching our 10th and our 12th graders at the end of March in trafficking. So we'll get those programs set up. So I'll talk about it again in February. Any questions for me? It's February and April. I think that's where I got, sorry. It's okay. Don't want to throw you off. Sorry, Laura. Okay.
It's on the back of the agenda, the very last thing.
Yeah, I don't have that. They have to keep me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ginger. Okay, and next we have the WISD health updates with Melissa Bousquet.
I really don't have much today, which is probably a good thing, right? COVID, I kind of anticipated a bit of a surge after the holidays, and we were all together for extended periods of time in confined spaces, but really we have not seen it, at least not reported to us. A little bit of an uptick, but not much, not anything significant. So I'm feeling pretty good about our COVID situation. That could change any day, as you well know. The other thing is we are about to launch into a discussion about having a clinic for our staff that they can access through the schools. It would be a school-based clinic. That's something we're actively investigating, and we're going to look at maybe implementing that hopefully next year if we opt to do it. I just wanted to let you know that that's what we're looking at, and that's something that we're thinking about to maybe be a support to our staff. The last thing is drug testing. Just like Lee said, currently, up to this point, we've had one positive and one refusal, basically, that is deemed as positive. So really, we've done pretty well thus far. Now, we've had drug testing this week already, so we will see what happens with this particular session. But that's kind of where we are with our drug testing. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I do have one.
Okay.
We're still doing the larger panel, correct?
We are. We have not changed the panel. Yes, we are. And we have gotten very little result from that. I think maybe one over the past couple of years. So that may be something we want to revisit as far as do we need that larger panel? I almost hate to let it go, but yet, you know, it's a conundrum a little bit.
Do the kids know how many, the panel that we use?
The kids know so little. And that's by their choice, I think. I mean, anybody can go on our website and read all about our drug testing program, but you would be surprised at what the kids and the parents do not know. And I was a parent too, so I get that part of it. You don't really focus on what you don't think pertains to you at that moment. But yeah, there's a lot of misunderstanding out there about our drug testing program. And I'm not sure, we tried to have parent meetings when we first launched the program, and we did have parent meetings, and nobody came hardly. So we opted not to continue that because it didn't seem to be helpful. But yeah.
I will make one comment. As a person that sat on the drug testing committee, I think it's fulfilling its purpose for us as a deterrent. So whether the kids know how many panels we test or not, it seems to be working.
Yeah, I would agree. I can tell you just from working with the kids that have tested positive, sure, you've got a few of them that aren't going to change their behavior no matter what you do. There is a handful of those, but I would say the vast majority really do. After that initial positive, they don't test positive again that year. So it's a good thing. We do have a few, but not a lot that continue the behavior. So I think Sherry's right. I think it's working. If it works for one, for me, that's working. So, all right, thank you. Oh, any more questions? Right? No. Okay.
Okay, well, that brings us to a close for today's meeting. And so if I can get a motion to adjourn our meeting at 1:01. Okay, Reverend Baker made a motion. Do I have a second? Becky, drew a big blank there for a minute. Any opposed? All in favor? Thank you very much, and we will see you on February the 23rd.